Hello and welcome back to Terminal Disclosure. I'm your host, Alex. Imagine this, the year is 2025. The world's eyes are on Harbin, China as it hosts the Asian Winter Games. But behind the scenes, a silent war is raging. A war fought not with bullets, but with lines of code. Today, we're diving deep into the murky world of cyber espionage as we dissect China's explosive allegations against the United States. They're claiming US hackers, specifically agents of the National Security Agency, targeted the Winter Games and even went after tech giant Huawei. Get ready, because this rabbit hole goes deep. We'll explore the history of cyber conflict between the US and China, examine the evidence, and discuss what this all means for the future of global security. Buckle up, it's going to be a wild ride. Before we get into the specifics of this case, let's lay some groundwork. The United States and China have been engaged in a silent digital battle for years. Think of it as a Cold War, but fought in cyberspace. Both countries possess sophisticated cyber capabilities and have been accused of using them to spy on each other, steal intellectual property, and even disrupt critical infrastructure. This isn't just about stealing secrets. It's about gaining a strategic advantage in the 21st century. This cyber competition is driven by a clash of ideologies and national interests. The US champions a free and open internet, while China advocates for what it calls cyber sovereignty, which basically means the government should control the internet within its borders. This fundamental disagreement fuels suspicion and mistrust, making cooperation on cybersecurity issues incredibly difficult. It's like two completely different operating systems trying to run on the same hardware. Inevitable conflicts are bound to arise. Now let's get to the heart of the matter, China's accusations. In late April 2024, police in the city of Harbin publicly accused 3 individuals of being NSA agents and offered a reward for information leading to their capture. They claim these agents were responsible for cyber attacks targeting the 2025 Asian Winter Games and Huawei's IT infrastructure. The named individuals are Catherine A. Wilson, Robert J. Snelling, and Stephen W. Johnson. China's state-sponsored Xinhua news agency claims these individuals work for the NSA's secretive Office of Tailored Access Operations, or TAO. TAO is basically the NSA's hacking unit. They're the guys who break into computer systems, steal data, and generally cause digital mayhem. They've been linked to some of the most sophisticated cyber operations in history. China alleges that TAO used front organizations and anonymously rented servers around the world to conceal the origins of these attacks. They further claim that these servers were used to steal user registration data and disrupt the systems for the Asian Winter Games. Interestingly, China also implicated the University of California and Virginia Tech in the coordinated cyber campaign against the Asian Winter Games. This is a significant escalation, suggesting that the alleged attacks weren't just the work of government agents but involved academic institutions. The universities have not commented, and it remains unclear what role, if any, they played in these alleged activities. Now, it's important to remember that these are just allegations. The NSA hasn't officially responded to the accusations, and there's no independent verification of China's claims. However, this public naming and shaming is a significant departure from the usual behind-the-scenes cyber warfare. It suggests that China is stepping up its efforts to counter what it sees as US cyber aggression. To understand the potential motives behind China's actions, we need to look at the bigger picture. In December of 2024, China directly accused the US of cyber attacks on Chinese tech firms, alleging the theft of trade secrets. These accusations coincided with heightened US-China tensions over export controls on semiconductors and AI technologies, so this isn't an isolated incident. It's part of a broader pattern of accusations and counter-accusations between the two countries. The US, for its part, has accused China of widespread cyber espionage targeting diverse sectors and countries. These accusations range from hacking into US telecommunications providers to breaching Canadian government networks. The US also claims Chinese hackers targeted Britain's Ministry of Defense, compromising sensitive information on troops. Our allies are joining in the chorus of denouncements, with Japan, South Korea, Australia, the United Kingdom, Germany, and New Zealand all expressing concern about Chinese cyber activity. According to the FBI director, the United States has been suffering from Chinese theft on a scale so massive that it represents one of the largest transfers of wealth in human history. He also states that the FBI is opening a new China-related counterintelligence case about every 10 hours. It's a stark reminder that we should take these counterintelligence claims seriously and shows that we cannot take claims from either side at face value. The US sees China's cyber activities as part of a broader strategy to surpass the US in economic and technological leadership. It sees it as a direct threat to US data, health, livelihoods, and security. The US frequently cites incidents like the hacking of Equifax, Anthem, and the Office of Personnel Management as examples of China's malicious cyber activities. It's worth noting that these activities aren't isolated to just the US and China. Cyber espionage is a global phenomenon with multiple actors, including Russia, Iran, and North Korea, targeting a wide range of countries. This is a complex web of espionage and counterespionage, with each country trying to gain an advantage in the digital realm. This also highlights how the US and China are not unique, and that all states are guilty of using cyber espionage tactics. Okay, so we have a situation where both the US and China are constantly accusing each other of cyber espionage. It's basically a digital shouting match, except instead of words, they're throwing malware and stolen data at each other. Is there any truth to these accusations? It's hard to say definitively, because evidence in cyber attribution is often circumstantial and difficult to prove. IP addresses, server locations, and malware analysis can provide clues, but sophisticated actors can mask their activities. The very nature of cyberspace makes attribution incredibly difficult. An attacker can route their traffic through multiple servers in different countries, making it hard to trace the attack back to its origin. They can also use stolen credentials or malware that mimics the tools used by other actors, creating what's known as a false flag operation. This makes it difficult to determine with certainty who is behind an attack, even with the best forensic analysis. The ease of obfuscation opens the door to misinformation or incorrect intelligence. This inherent ambiguity in cyber attribution has significant implications. It can lead to miscalculations, escalations, and even unintended consequences. If a country mistakenly attributes an attack to another country, it could trigger a retaliatory response that escalates the conflict. This is why it's crucial to have a clear understanding of the technical complexities of cyber attribution and to avoid jumping to conclusions based on incomplete or misleading information. Despite the difficulties in attribution, there are some telltale signs that can point to a particular actor. These include the types of tools and techniques used in the attack, the targets that are selected, and the timing of the attack. For example, if an attack uses a specific type of malware that is known to be used by a particular country, it could suggest that the country is responsible. If the targets of the attack are aligned with the country's strategic interests, that could also be an indicator. However, these are just clues, and they don't provide definitive proof. And what about these named NSA agents? So far, the NSA hasn't officially confirmed or denied whether these individuals work for the agency. It's possible that these are real agents, that they're contractors, or that the names are simply made up as a propaganda tactic. It's even possible that the individuals exist but are not related to the NSA. It's all speculation at this point. The lack of transparency from both sides only fuels more speculation, so we have to rely on the facts. Let's talk about motivations. Why would China publicly accuse the US of cyber attacks? There are several possibilities. First, it could be a genuine attempt to hold the US accountable for its actions and deter future attacks. By publicly naming and shaming the alleged perpetrators, China may be trying to create international pressure on the US to curb its cyber activities. The goal could be to gain leverage in future negotiations or to force the US to change its behavior. Second, it could be a retaliatory move in response to US accusations of Chinese cyber espionage. By pointing the finger back at the US, China may be trying to deflect attention from its own activities and create a sense of moral equivalence. This is especially true because China has claimed the US is the biggest perpetrator of attacks on the nation's infrastructure. The thinking could be that if everyone is spying on everyone else, then no one is really to blame. Third, it could be a strategic communication tactic aimed at shaping public opinion and undermining US credibility. By publicly accusing the US of cyber attacks, China may be trying to portray the US as a hypocritical actor that violates international norms. This could be particularly effective in countries that are already skeptical of US foreign policy. They may see the US as interfering with trade policies that may ultimately be beneficial to them. Fourth, it could be an attempt to undermine US influence in cyberspace and promote China's own vision of internet governance. China has long advocated for greater state control over the internet and has criticized the US for its dominance in the digital realm. By highlighting alleged US cyber activities, China may be trying to build support for its own model of internet governance, which emphasizes cyber sovereignty and government regulation. This would allow them to more efficiently influence international partners and other countries. Let's not forget the Huawei angle. The US has long viewed Huawei as a security risk due to its alleged ties to the Chinese government. The US has imposed restrictions on Huawei products, fearing that they could be used for espionage. So if the US did target Huawei's IT infrastructure, it could be seen as an attempt to gather intelligence on the company's activities or to disrupt its operations. It goes to show how little the US thinks of China's ties to Huawei. The alleged targeting of the Asian Winter Games raises even more interesting questions. Why would the US target a sporting event? It's possible that the attacks were aimed at gathering intelligence on Chinese security measures or disrupting the event for political reasons. It could also be a way to send a message to China about its human rights record or its policies in Hong Kong or Taiwan. It could have even been a show of force and a sign that the US is the dominant espionage power. Let's dive deeper into the potential implications of China's accusations, starting with the impact on US-China relations. This incident will almost certainly further strain the already tense relationship between the two countries. It could lead to increased trade disputes, diplomatic sanctions, and even military posturing in the South China Sea. This could create a new wave of pressure on both sides to respond in a way that seems proportionate. From a cybersecurity perspective, this incident could lead to a further fragmentation of the internet. As countries become more suspicious of each other's cyber activities, they may be more likely to build their own national firewalls and restrict the flow of information across borders. This would create a splintered internet, with different countries operating under different rules and regulations. It would also make it more difficult to combat cybercrime and terrorism, which require international cooperation. From a human rights perspective, this incident raises concerns about the potential for abuse of cyber capabilities. If countries are willing to use cyberattacks to target sporting events and steal personal data, what else are they willing to do? There's a risk that cyber capabilities could be used to suppress dissent, monitor activists, and even conduct political assassinations. This could create a chilling effect on freedom of expression and assembly around the world. These tactics are not fair and target citizens without any ties to the government and without just cause. Finally, this incident highlights the urgent need for international norms of behavior in cyberspace. The current situation, where countries are free to spy on each other and conduct cyberattacks with impunity, is unsustainable. We need to develop a set of rules that govern state behavior in cyberspace, just as we have rules for warfare in the physical world. This would require a multilateral effort involving governments, industry, and civil society. The situation between the US and China is very nuanced. On one hand, the US is a global superpower, known for intervening in a variety of international conflicts. China, too, has demonstrated a desire to compete with the US and has been observed using espionage and cyber warfare as tools of statecraft. Both parties want to control international relationships and markets. Even though international laws exist, there's little enforcement on these issues and guidelines. It's very difficult to know if a cyberattack is intended for war or just intended for espionage, and even the definition of espionage may differ depending on who you ask. International cyber laws are like the Wild West, so it is tough to determine who may or may not have been engaging in the correct behavior. We also need to remember that the US and China aren't the only actors in the game. There are several other countries, as well as independent hacking groups and organizations that may have had a hand in either side's cyber espionage activities. The world of cyber warfare is complex and global. No state is innocent, and it's highly probable that cybercrime will only continue to grow in prevalence as time goes on. In conclusion, China's accusations against the US are a significant development in the ongoing cyber conflict between the two countries. While the truth remains murky, this incident highlights the strategic importance of cyberspace and the urgent need for international norms of behavior. As we've seen, the implications of this conflict are far-reaching, affecting everything from US-China relations to human rights to the future of the internet. These espionage and cyber warfare tactics are here to stay, so it is something we must all understand. We'll keep a close eye on how this story develops and bring you any new information as it becomes available. Thanks for tuning in to Terminal Disclosure. Until next time, stay safe and stay informed.